Hello students, welcome to GSP Tutorial 1. Let's open up GSP 5. This is the icon for GSP 5. It looks like a globe with a compass in front of it. So let's double click on GSP 5. Alright, down the left hand side we have our main tools. As I roll my mouse over the tools, we'll see what they are. The first one is the translation arrow tool. I'm probably going to refer to it as the select tool or the arrow tool. The next tool down is the point tool. The next tool down is the compass tool. Then we get to the segment straight edge tool, which I will call the line tool. This is the main tool in GSP 5. The next tool is the polygon tool, then the text tool, then the marker tool, the information tool. All right, let's begin. Let's create a title at the top of our screen. So let's click on the text box. As I move my mouse back onto the work area, you'll see that the cursor turns into a hand. So I'm going to click and hold my mouse and drag a wide box across the top of the screen. Now I've created a text box. I'm going to type in the title, Tutorial 1, Drawing Line Segments. Please type in this title. You can press pause while you type in the title. Alright, I'm going to change the font. So I'm going to highlight or select my entire text. And down at the bottom, I want to change it away from Times New Roman. So I'm going to click on the font down arrow, and I'm going to choose a more suitable font. I'm going to go to my favorite font, Calibri. I can also increase the size of the title, so maybe I'll make it size 24. Then I will bold it, and because it's a title, I will underline it. Now, when I click outside of the text box, you'll notice that the text box will shrink to exactly the size that I need. Now I want to introduce you to the arrow tool or the select tool. So when I click on the arrow tool or the translation arrow tool, this tool allows me to move objects around the screen. So what I want to do is I want to position that title and center it at the top of my screen. When I deselect means when I click on any open area, the highlighting of the text box will disappear and it is now locked in position. Now when I say it's locked into position, it means that it's not going to move unless I physically click on it again and move it. Alright, I'm going to deselect. So like we have done in previous units, we always have a title centered, bolded, and underlined at the top of our screen. The next line underneath is always our name line. So I'm going to go back to the text tool. I'm going to click and hold the mouse and drag another wide box directly underneath the title. Now in this window, I always start with by, and then I'd like you to type your first name, your last name, and your class. You can press pause here while you type that text box. Okay. I want to highlight or select all of that typing. I want to remove the bold. I want to remove the underline. And then I want to decrease the size of the font. So I'm going to use size 16. And so that we do something with your name, let's click on italic. Again, when I click outside of the text box will shrink to exactly the size I need. And then I'm going to change tools to the selection arrow or the arrow tool. and I'm going to click on my text box and move it and center it directly underneath the title. And then I will deselect. I will click on a white area. All right, so we've started our first tutorial. So let's do an initial save. So let's go to File, Save As. Now when you go to save, there are a couple ways you can save. You can go right to the Save In window, and you can click the down arrow and look for your student number. Now it's very important that you look for your student number underneath the word computer. Don't click on your student number above the word computer. Now I'm recording this tutorial at home, so I don't have my teacher number, so I'm just going to save it in my drive here. And I'd like you to call the file Tutorial1. When you've typed that in, click Save. Now when you've saved, the file name should appear in the top bar, either centered or in the top left-hand corner. Okay, let's get drawing some things. Now the main drawing tool is the line segment tool or the segment straight edge tool. So I'd like you to click on that tool. I'd like you to click a starting point. Don't hold the mouse down. And as you drag your mouse, you can see that I am extending a line segment. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to draw a horizontal line here. Now, if you make a mistake, or if you don't like what you've drawn, you can simply go to Edit, Undo, or you can hit the Delete key. Or what you can do is you can use the Select tool, the arrow tool, and you can click on whatever you don't want and then hit Delete. So there are many ways to correct something that you've already drawn. So I'm going to go through drawing a horizontal line again. I'm going to click on the line segment tool and I'm going to draw a horizontal line. Remember, a horizontal line goes left to right. All right, now that I've drawn a horizontal line, I might want to move it. So I can go directly to the arrow tool, to the select tool, and now that it's highlighted, you notice it's highlighted in pink, I can just grab it and I can move it anywhere on the screen. Now, if you had deselected, in other words, you had taken the highlighting off of the line segment tool, then you can simply click back on the line segment and then you can move it around. So I'm just going to keep it on the left-hand side here. All right, I'm going to select that line segment and I'm going to go up to Display. So from the top menu bar, I'm going to look for the Display menu. And then I'm going to go down and look for Line Style. Now when I just hover my mouse over Line Style, you see all of the options that I have for that line. I have 4 thicknesses: hairline, thin, medium, and thick. And then I have 3 styles of line. I have a solid line, a dashed line, and a dotted line. Now, to be honest, we are almost always going to use a solid line. But sometimes I'm going to ask you to change the thickness of the line. So I believe the default thickness is medium. But if you want that line to stand out a bit more, you can change it to thick. And I'll show you the difference. You see how it's much bolder? Now I can also change the color of the line. Now you notice that my line is still selected or highlighted. I can go back up to Display, and then I can go down and look for the color menu. And you see the basic colors that I'm given, so I can choose a different color. So how about I choose green? All right, I want to deselect. In other words, click on a white area. All right, so let's measure the length of this line. So in order to measure, I have to have whatever it is I want to measure selected or highlighted. So let's click on that line segment again. This time, I want you to go to the Measure pull-down menu at the top. If you click on measure, you'll notice that there's really only one available option. Actually, there are two. There's another one down here called slope, but we're not going to deal with slope. I want you to measure the length. And you'll see that a couple things happen. Number one, a measurement appears somewhere on your screen. It's highlighted, so it's very easy to locate. Also, you'll notice that the points of your line segment are now automatically labeled. So what we want to do is we want to put the measurement together with your diagram. So I want to grab the measurement and I want to place it underneath the line segment. Now it doesn't always have to be underneath. It could be anywhere close to that diagram. Now, everyone's line segment is going to be different. Mine just happens to be 12.62 centimeters. Now I want to concentrate on the decimals here. You notice that there is a number 6 in the tenths column and there is a number 2 in the hundredths column. Well, let's say I only wanted to measure to the tenths column. I didn't want to be as accurate or as precise. So here's what we can do. This time I want you to go to the Edit pull-down menu, and I want you to go all the way to the bottom and look for Preferences. So let's click on Preferences. The preference window will pop open. So we're not dealing with angles in this tutorial, we're only dealing with distance. I want to keep the distance measured in centimeters, but if I go over here to the precision column, I want to change hundredths now to tenths. So I'm going to click on tenths. I'm not going to adjust anything else. I'm going to leave the angle alone and I'm going to leave the others alone. And then I'm going to click OK. Now let's measure this line segment again. Let's click on the line segment and go up to the measure menu and choose length. Now you'll notice that the measurement is only measured to the tenths column, whereas in the previous measurement it measured to the hundredths column. Alright, let's deselect. Click on a white area. So I'm going to draw one more line just for practice. So let's click back to the line segment tool. And this time I want you to create a diagonal line. Different length from the previous line. Let's change the color to differentiate this line from the previous line. Let's go up to Display, go down to Color, and I want to choose a distinct color that's different from the first one. So I'll choose orange. You can choose any color you like. Now you notice that I've kept this line selected or highlighted. Now that it's still highlighted, I can go directly to Measure and I can measure its length. The measurement will appear somewhere on the screen highlighted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it. I'm going to change tools. Now you notice I went to grab that measurement and a line segment was drawn. It's because I was still on the line segment. So I'm going to edit, undo my mistake. I'm going to switch tools to the arrow tool or the select tool. I'm going to grab that measurement and I'm going to place it near the line segment, and then I'm going to deselect. So why don't we add just the label for each of these line segments. Let's go back to the text tool. I'm going to click and hold my mouse button and drag a box underneath that line segment. And I'm just going to call this line segment Horizontal Line Segment. Now you notice it still has the italics because the last time I created a text box was for my name and I used the italics function for that line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to take off the italics down here at the bottom, and then maybe I'll put the bold back on. If I click anywhere outside the text box will shrink, and then I could click on the arrow tool and I could place that label anywhere. Now, because I placed the measurements underneath, maybe the label will look good above the diagram. So let's create a label for this line segment. So I'm going to go back to the text tool. I'm going to click and hold my mouse button and drag to the right. And then I'm going to label this line segment diagonal line segment. If I click on the select tool or the arrow tool, I can now move that label closer to the line segment. All right. So we're going to do one last save. Because we've already saved as, we just have to go to File, Save. Many of you use the hotkey Control S on your keyboard, which is great. Okay, thanks for watching this tutorial. We'll see you next time. Bye.